Every time. I didn't even try. I was trying not to start with laughing, but here we
I
are.
know. I feel like this is our thing. We just like laugh when we shouldn't be laughing. But we are live. Hey everybody. We are going to be talking about the last episode of season 3 of Dark Side of the Ring. But before we get into that, I am Katrina from In Cat We Trust and a former host of Unpopular Review, and I am co-hosting with my friend Captain Shaykespear. How are you today?
I'm good. Just enjoying my day off. That's it. How are
Listen,
you?
I had to be outside and I'm like, yo, it is cold. I
Oh,
don't like being cold. I think it was like 34 earlier today, and I'm like, all right, first of all, November. Like I get it, but can we not? So
like literally,
so
no.
I wasn't happy about that. But otherwise I'm okay. Just cold and tired. So yeah, sorry we didn't do it last week. There's a lot of stuff happening. I was very busy last week as it is. But we had to make sure we give you guys our thoughts on the very last episode of season 3, which is the steroid trials of Vince McMahon and WWF, WWE. And yeah, I was like, listening, I guess, to some of the people tell the story. It's like you think of some of the other Vince McMahon stories, and you're like, okay, that sounds like something Vince would do, like with regards to his responses to things. So I guess, what were your initial thoughts, I guess, about what I want to make sure I'm getting this guy's name right. I think Jerry McDevitt.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. What were your thoughts about his like? Because I feel like from the very beginning he was just like, I tried to bring Vince McMahon down. And I'm like, well, how did that go for you, man? Like,
Yeah. I'm like, honestly, it came up like, why do you care, sis? Like, I don't know why, but I feel like it really wasn't that big of a deal. Like, why are you going? Like, what are you trying to do here? You want to like get the new big break or something? Like, it just felt clout chasey. It didn't feel like he actually gave a crap about the actual wrestlers who were being, used or whatever he was trying to push. You just wanted to, oh, I want to take down pro wrestling. I want to do something real cool so I can go in the history books. You failed.
yeah, you know what? That's kind of the vibe I got from him too. Like when he started talking, and like I remember all of this. I do remember it was like a really big deal, and obviously I was a lot younger, so I don't remember all this. Like I don't remember specifics or anything, but I do remember when it was a big deal and how, even to the point where as recent enough as John Cena was like, no, nobody's doing that. Um, my thing is, yes, I knowing with medication in general, why I feel like every time we're doing this, there's always some random sound. New York City problems, guys. Sorry. It's always like as soon as I get live, there's always a random noise happening in the background. But I feel like in general, medications in general, and these can be even the ones that are prescribed, have side effects. And
Yeah.
that's a like it's a you ever watch the commercials with the medicines and they'd be like, oh,
They
may
say it real
help this
quick too.
problem, but you might be suicidal and it's like all these really bad side effects.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And it's also how in the commercial they say it really fast. You're like, depression, anxiety.
Or they put it in these really minuscule words and it's really tiny so you can't read it. So
How would he
in
say?
a situation, yeah, like and to be also be clear, I don't know if people noticed you can take steroids and it's not like the doping steroids where it's yeah, listen, Ron, I don't know. It's like every time I say I'm gonna go live on StreamYard for something, it's like everything outside. It's like,
When the
oh, Katrina's on.
fire truck's out.
Like Katrina's on. Let's just be extra over the top. Like so, you can use steroids for a few things that's not just even for like being a better athlete or whatever the case may be. And
Right.
I'm saying this from like I've taken steroids for like pain problems
Right.
where it was like to force something to kind of work a little more quickly. So it's if it's done correctly, it's not necessarily always a bad thing. It's what it's being used for and the amount of times you're using it. So I feel like with regards to that, I didn't get the vibe he cared about the athletes as well. Because it's like if he was really concerned, like, oh, these guys are using steroids, and it's the point where now it's affecting brain function or it's affecting how they act with other people, which clearly was what was happening with a lot of athletes in general when they did those type of steroids. Then I'm like, why are you gonna make sure these guys are okay? Like, you gonna check in on them in a year? They're like, okay, you're not taking the words anymore. How you feel it? Like, and that was the vibe. I feel like if you're gonna go that hard, and this is not to condone anything Vince McMahon was doing, because clearly he was lying. Like, it was very clear he was lying about some shit. Like, it was obvious he was
No, he
lying.
was. We just have decided to ignore it.
You know, like, so it's like clearly Vince was lying. So this is not condoning. What I am saying is I felt like it was more so because Vince was the top wrestling guy at the time, you know, where like everybody kind of knew who WWE was. That's what it was, more motivated to kind of bring him down a notch or bring him down, and not even to the point where the government was like, the government, you guys know how to do everything else, right? So you couldn't tell me the fact that, which I thought, I guess at the end of the episode was a good point, when it was like, why would you trial him in Long Island with his business? I'm like, hello,
Yeah,
law 101. If you're gonna sue somebody or put somebody on trial, you put them where you can get most of those charges to stick. That's like, if you commit a crime somewhere, they're not going to have you go into a different country to be tried for it because you didn't do that crime there. You have to be tried in the place you did the crime. So
right,
if a situation, I'm just like, y'all didn't clearly want to really go after Vince McMahon, because why was he in trial in New York when
right.
his office, you know, his main facilities, which they said could actually trace back, which he probably would have gotten some jail time for, was in Connecticut. So I'm like, y'all fucked up right there. I was like, what kind of prosecutors are y'all that y'all don't know, you know, dot your I's and cross your T's? Like, know what you're supposed to know. Like, if you're gonna do all this, you know, make sure it is like almost refutable to
Right.
not, you know, lose the case. So that, to me, I was just like, okay, so you guys just want to take somebody down or try to take somebody down and didn't do your homework. Because I'm like, if there was evidence that linked back to literally Stanford, Connecticut, why the hell y'all didn't trial his ass down? That's what I would have
That
done.
was just
Like,
dumb.
so when they said that, I'm like, clearly y'all didn't care that much about the wrestlers. Like, y'all was just like, let's bring somebody down. And again, this is not condoning it to man. People think I am. I am not. I am saying that let's be smart about this. If you're gonna do all of this and it's a big deal, then do it correctly. So that was my thing with that guy. He was like going super hard, and I believe the other guy was George. I don't want to pronounce his name wrong. So Saharian, you know, with the guy with the Dr. George Saharian, the point where they was just like right away, they was like, okay, yeah, it was him. Like, yeah, like he gave the like with no problem. Like, oh, the guy so quickly, you know, it was so to the point where they just like threw him. And then again, this is not condoning. This is like how quickly they kind of threw him under the bus. And then as soon as they started coming for him, WWE was like, you know what? Let's cut ties. And then I believe it was a bodybuilder who
Um,
told, originally it was the bodybuilder who kind of said that, yeah, this was the guy that he was getting the stuff from.
yeah.
um and so the fact that the FBI went off a picture, like, oh, he's with Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan, let's go after them too. And I'm like, so are we gonna go after every organization that clearly there was quite a few of that time period where people was kind of juicing? There was some in there was some in baseball, Major League Baseball. I remember that. People was juicing, and in other aspects of people was kind of juicing to kind of get a little better at whatever it was they were performing. So I just felt like, again, if you're gonna go hard and it's because supposedly about the concern, and yeah, I get the stuff is illegal and I understand that, because again, even prescription drugs that you are actually prescribed, there are also legalities to that too. Like, if you shouldn't be giving this to other people if your name is on it, stuff like that. So that I understood. It just, I felt like they didn't, I felt like it was more of a, let's just kind of see what big fish we can take down, rather than let's make sure that not only are we taking them down, but we're also making sure the people who these could cause problems to in 5-10 years or even recently be helped. So that was my first like thoughts. I'm like, okay, y'all, you know, and I guess every time I hear Chris Jericho narrate, I just get irritated. So there's also that. Every time I hear his voice, I just be like, oh god.
WWE.
And this is not to, I know Willie said Vince was juicing. Yeah, I mean, I know it was obvious he was, because like, let's be real, some of his muscle. I'm like, you
He got
telling me you how old?
beat.
And this is not, again, not to anybody who's like in great shape when they're older. It's very possible to be older and you working out and eating right and you look marvelous shape. I am not dismissing that, but let's not lie. Vince McMahon definitely at some point was probably he come on, let's not lie. So what did you think, I guess, as far as like Hulk Hogan's because he seemed like he had a lot bigger role than most of the people that they talked about. Hulk Hogan was like one of the first people ready to tell the talk. So what were your thoughts about that?
I think Hulk is one of those people that just goes where the money is. That's it. Um, which I think is why he changed his tune later on as well. It like I feel like he didn't go as hard as he could have because he was thinking about longevity.
Yeah.
And obviously if he did that, well, I don't know, because Vince is pretty forgiving, but he was thinking, what if I want to go back? I feel like that was why he kind of tweaked what he said. But also it's annoying, like, why you he just confuses me all, and I can't, I just, but I get why he didn't really go hard how he could, because he could have definitely went harder.
Yeah, so that was my thing with Hulk Hogan, and again, I don't like him either. But it was like, okay, I'm gonna tell a little bit, and then it was funny because like right when they said he was gonna tell a little bit, then the Chris Jericho's voice goes, and this is when WWE was trying to get rid of Hulk Hogan. So it was like, okay, so you're implying at first off of that, like Hulk Hogan was like, maybe I'm gonna tell a little bit because you're trying to get rid of me, like maybe have some leverage, because that's the way it was portrayed with those parts of the documentary. Like as soon as it like this might be contract time, or you might be letting me go, maybe if I say a little something, yeah, we'll have a little leverage from you guys. And then he went to Arsenio Hall, which was like, I didn't understand that, because I'm like, if you're gonna go over there and then give this really long monologue that makes absolutely no sense and still says that clearly you was taking steroids, because that's what it said. I was like, so you did all of this. Let's go to a talk show. Arsenio Hall, who was known for kind of being very blunt about stuff that was talked about in his show,
Yeah.
and you go to a show like Arsenio Hall with black guy, and then you talk some nonsense on there. So I'm like, what was the purpose of you going here if you didn't actually plan to either be honest or clear your name? It was one or the other. You just did some really weird, convoluted story, and I'm like, so why was what was the purpose of this? So Vince being mad about that, I'm like, you know what? Honestly, like either we're gonna go all or we're not gonna go at all. Like either you say I'm riding with you, Vince, and I'm just not gonna say a word. Like it was just me.
Right.
Or fuck, I'm telling everything. If I'm gonna do all this, you might as well tell everything. I didn't understand why it was just a weird thing, to the point where the FBI was like, okay, he is definitely lying. Let's go extra hard to Mr. Man. I'm like, all you did was make this a lot worse.
Right.
And I understand, like, again, not condoning. I understand why he was probably like, yo, Hulk Hogan.
He just wanted attention. He could be a bit of a attention whore. I think he just wanted some. He just says things sometimes just because he wants attention. So that's what I think that was. But then he kind of like roped himself in. You wanted attention and you got really roped in. You got more than what you bargained for.
Yeah, I also with, I guess, when the trials started, and the fact that Jerry said he had to learn as much as he could about steroids. So this is once again the situation. It's like, well, why I'm also a firm believer in, before you write things or stuff, have your research, have your facts. Let's not sound ridiculous. I hate people, that this is going to be a slight jab at like people who call themselves reporters and journalists and writers on Twitter. There's a lot of those who, like, they say stuff and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, there's no fact to this. And I do believe there's a difference between opinion-based writing. I have to tell you this all the time. There's fact writing, it is actual journalism. You're just telling the story. And then there's opinion-based writing, which means it is your opinion. Your opinion is not fact. And I feel like a lot of people misconstrue what that means. And I'll be like, oh, this is fact, because somebody's like, you know what? Butch Call is a terrible wrestler. I'm like, okay, but that's not necessarily a fact. That's a subjective type of, that's an opinion. So I feel like that, like, in situation, I get in wanting to know about the steroids and stuff, but then he was like, well, if you're trying to help like bring Vince McMahon down, then he was also saying that, the FBI was like leaking information. So I'm like, well, what do you think you was doing also? If you were kind of reporting on this, would you not also kind of demonizing Vince McMahon as well? It was just a very odd thing
They just, it was all sloppy. The way they went about this was so sloppy. Like they were doomed from the very beginning because this was mess. This was mess. Just from even the beginning, starting with where they, as you said in the beginning, where they ceased, well, they, what's the word when you serve someone?
Yeah,
Serving him even,
yeah, like serving or get subpoenaed. Yeah,
yes, that's the, oh my God, my brain. But yeah, they started off on the wrong foot from the very beginning. It was like, this is mess. This is mess.
yeah. Like I think they said 92 they got mad subpoenas, and I'm like, all right, but then it's like again, I'm not understanding why you guys wouldn't go to make sure it's if y'all was really trying to make sure Vince McMahon got some kind of punishment for allowing this to happen, allowing the doctor to just be like, you know what, guys, here's a bunch of roids. Like, we don't need F the fact that this might kill you or this might affect it's fine. Here, like if you really truly cared about, I guess, the people in general, the fact that it could have harmed other people, why not make sure it gets to where it needs to be to, which should have been Connecticut. He should have got trial there because I feel like he probably he would have gotten jail time. I feel that with all on the fact that you know, especially if you got on like the court stand and you lied, and perjury is a crime in itself.
Right.
So like if you got on the thing and lied on about some nonsense and lied, I think he would have gotten more if they could have at least trailed it back correctly instead of doing it in a whole different state. It
Right.
just it didn't make sense. And then
They
how
were
did
just
you feel
hot in the
about
ass. They were hot in the ass to do something, and they screwed themselves.
yeah, like the fact that he could have had 8 years in jail, which I mean, if they could have really just got back the way they needed to, he really could have ended, not only fines but jail time. Probably, honestly, we might not have had WWE the way we have now if he actually got like was found guilty on it.
Right.
But
That's
I feel
bad.
like the prosecution team just didn't do their job. I was like the defense, the job of the defense in general is usually just to poke some holes, like poke. Hey, what's up, Andre? The jobs usually of the defense is to poke holes in the prosecution's case. You don't necessarily have to prove somebody innocent necessarily. You just got to poke enough holes that people are like, this looks a little questionable. And if you can do that job, you did your job as a defense attorney. The prosecution has to make sure their case is so tight that the defense can barely poke a hole, that you kind of have to maybe will do like a plea or something with
Right.
situations like this. So I just didn't understand what the prosecution. I was like, you guys, I wanted to be a prosecutor when I was younger, like a criminal one at least. And I'm gonna lock everybody up. Like you do some stuff, you go to jail. I was always like that was my attitude, like mostly for like people who did like bad crimes. They're like, oh, you deserve some jail time. But that was like I was always like, you make sure you have all your evidence to back up your argument or whatever the case may be. So it was just weird. How did you feel about Vincent Mac coming to court with the neck brace? Because
I
that
feel like it was on par with who he is. He is a living character. Like that man is a living legend. Like he really is, and he just does the most outlandish thing that you would not. The things that he finds funny, the things that he does, it's just really seemed on par with who he is as a person. That he would do that. Whether the injury that he had was real or not, I think it was a great touch. It was. It really was, because I mean, you come in with the neck brace, you're gonna get a little bit of sympathy. You're like, look at this man. They got him sitting up here, and he's like this. We gotta give him. I don't know. I feel like it was a good touch, and it was on par with who he is.
like, I know people was like, okay, he had a neck injury, but I'm like, so how convenient did you have this? Like, not say, let's say if he actually had it, I just feel like it was pretty convenient to have it right
It
when you have
was
to make your first appearance on the trial, and then you have a neck injury, but then you're walking in the manner you would walk. This man has that walk when he's
the walk.
walking down the ramp and he's walking, in the background, and you see him in the ring. Like he don't do it as much anymore, but back then, Mr. Man, anytime he made an appearance or he that walk, like there's no way you have a neck injury and you still walking exactly like how you walk normally, like you just big shit. That was I was like, all right, like, and the fact that they said that the people who was there was like cheering, like he was the face here, and like the fact that he played off the fact that people would like are not taking that wrestling is not necessarily a real thing with regards to outside of what they do in the company. So that I was just like Vince, come on. I feel like it was also like petty, but also like I could probably pull one over you guys. So it was.
Hi, Charmaine.
Hey, what's up, Charmaine? Um And I also, this is like another thing, I guess, with regards to the defense. I guess, well, this is mostly on the defense that they got a lawyer that also defended Hogan. I'm like, so we're gonna ignore that one of the biggest things is always conflict of interest, and like
Right.
you have to make sure there's no conflict because they'll take it as you're like not doing your job correctly if there's some kind of conflict of interest. So I was just like, why Vince McMahon wound up getting the Laura Beretti. I'm hoping I'm saying her name right. Um, I just feel like a lot of it was just like not done, I guess, the way it should have been. Um, the way it should have been to kind of get Vince in trouble. So, what were your thoughts about like the wrestlers on the stand? Because I was laughing about that. Like,
I just thought it was funny. I'm sorry. Like they were trying. I'm laughing. I'm trying not to laugh, but it was a circus. It felt like a circus a little bit. I feel like they struck out. Like they should have went for more, not as big as Hulk, because I feel like the minute Hulk spoke his piece, the everything just didn't matter, because that's the, as they said even in the episode, that's the biggest fish. If the biggest fish doesn't fall in line, it doesn't matter about the rest. So once his story went, and I don't know why they would base their story off of him, because Hulk just is a liar half the time. He's shady, untrustworthy. Why would you put him to be your ace in the hole? Terrible idea. And obviously that was what happened. So it completely was derailed. It was a whole circus.
yeah, I think the only person they said that did say that Mr. Man kind of made him use steroids to keep his job was the guy they said his name was like Nails. And I'm like, the thing was, see, this is another thing is like usually again a situation like this, you're kind of defense supposed to be able to prep you
Right.
for what's gonna happen. Like if you get questioned or understand, there's usually prep work before then. Like they're gonna ask you these kind of questions. How do you respond to these kind of questions? I don't know if I'm like putting information that's not available, but that's usually very correct. Like they will ask you questions, kind of get you an idea of what to expect on the stand, the lawyers. And this could be either for the prosecution or either for the defense, but there's usually some, and like what could be a rebuttal question to be prepared for. So my thing was, you guys supposedly did these with the wrestlers because be prosecutions like witnesses. Did y'all not prep them for the fact, or did you guys just like, unless they really? I feel like these wrestlers might have been smart, but it also were they really that smart to con you guys into believing that you guys they were gonna be that ace in the hole, and then it was like who swerve? Did they really like did they really do that much work of like doing the swerve on you guys, or you guys didn't prep them correctly? I just feel like did you guys really do your homework to make sure these wrestlers who y'all was like, oh, they're gonna tell on Vince, and only one did, and then the one person that did happened to say he held no animosity, but then say he hated him. Which right there, if you're looking at it, could be used as well. What if he has just some animosity for that reason, and this is why he's saying
Right.
that? Again, I do believe it was very obvious that a lot of those people was using steroids. Like a lot of them were not bodybuilder style type guys, and I know some bodybuilders use steroids too, but let's be real. A lot of them, it wasn't like a lot of them was sitting there bodybuilding. They was just big because they were using the roids. So, um, it was just a very weird thing that you guys got these group of wrestlers. Only one told, and the one person that told kind of sounded like he was a bit petty. And so, because he sounded petty, that still did help your case. And I'm like, so what did you guys do to prep these guys beforehand? And this is supposed to be prosecution witnesses,
A whole lot of nothing.
and y'all was like, "Ooh, Vince is about to go down." Why did you guys like? It was just an odd thing. I would have found the one person. I'm like, okay, this looks like good testimony. This looks like they can't poke holes in this. This looks like we about to get him. I feel like nobody did their job here, and Vince McMahon literally got off because prosecution didn't do what they were supposed to do. I feel like if because it wasn't like his defense was great or anything. It wasn't necessarily like he had really good defense. It was more so like they were just kind of playing out the fact that post prosecution kind of sucked. Like it's like you guys didn't try that hard, really. You know that hard about it. So,
I agree. I just wanted to say I agree. I agree to this. Just
so I
like,
feel like the biggest thing I guess that they said a lot of was the doctor's trial.
mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
he went to jail for 44 days. I guess he didn't give him bail, which kind of sucked. I guess. Uh, the fact that they played the recording of him saying he would give steroids to children. And I'm like, once again, I feel like
So terrible.
in context, what children would this doctor be around to give steroids to? And again, this is the not condoning. I'm just looking at it from a way of, let's call the fact that he never got prosecuted for that, but you can give kids steroids depending on what the steroid is used for. If a kid, for instance, have like pertussis cough, which is like that pertense cough that some kids might get when they get sick when they're like under the age of 5, and it's like the cough that usually they will give an antibiotic and a steroid to kind of force the cough to stop a lot quicker so the child can get better sooner. So was his profession of working with wrestlers, would he really give a kid like, I just feel like they use that part of the stuff that he said and not using the actual thing that might have, hurt McMahon or hurt him in this way, was just like, why would you use the one line that you can't really prove? Like him saying, I would give steroids to children. It's like, of course that's a terrible thing. But how would he have the ability to do so unless somebody parent is like, you know what, I know you work with this wrestler, can you give me some words and give my kid? Are his parents really doing that? Like, his doctors literally will give a kid a steroid if it helps with, because again, it's to force things to kind of work a lot quicker. Because there's literally, medicines for children that are considered steroids, which is why you're going to be careful, all that other stuff. So I was like, if this was the line that I was going to use to put the nail in the coffin, this is probably not
terrible.
And the fact that he was like, oh, I don't remember this conversation, or like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, y'all really thought like he was, I don't know if the doctor had this much of a loyalty to events, or it was legit like he was just like, I'm getting paid to give births. I don't care. Like, it's right. I don't know. I just felt like they didn't do enough if they was really trying.
It was all very half-assed. It was all sloppy. They lost before they even started, really.
And then I guess this is the part, like, in Jericho's voice, his narration, and the process when he goes, Hulk Hogan was supposed to be that person to put Vince down, and then he was just, oh, we're just gym buddies, and I'm like, see, once again, I do not like Hogan because fuck him, right. But what did you guys not talk to Hulk Hogan before this? Because yes, their relationship was very messed up by this point, but it's like, did you not talk to him beforehand and make sure he didn't do this? You're telling me all the wrestlers came here just swerving you guys left and right. All of them was like beforehand, like, okay, guys, we're gonna make a prosecution. Grayson, because fuck him. So I'm just saying, you telling me none of the prosecution beforehand. It was like, okay, guys, let's make sure we have stuff together. All of them got together before that. I was like, you know what, guys, we're gonna get there and make the prosecution look like some fools. That's what I got from that. I'm like, nobody thought this was gonna happen. Like, Vince McMahon clearly had some kind of power that he scared them enough that y'all better not fucking tell, or you guys just didn't do your job correctly. Because I know the journalist was like, when somebody came to his house, it was like, this neighborhood is dangerous, and I'm like, no, this could be, this very well could be Vince McMahon threatening, because again, we are not going to ignore the other Vince McMahon stories of things he have done in the past where he needed to, put himself in a space like, listen, I can end you, I can ruin your life type stuff. We're not going to ignore that. So I was like, damn, you sent this poor man's mom probably don't know what the hell's going on because she's just living there. And then she opens, like, personally, I wouldn't have opened the door. That's a personal thing, though. Right. And then he's just like, oh, your neighborhood is dangerous. I'm like, I'm sure the man would know if the neighborhood he lives in is a dangerous neighborhood. That sounded like threatening to me. So even though y'all was doing all of this, y'all still didn't make sure the witnesses you guys have was going to make sure to win your case for you. I just felt like it was a big deal, clearly, because it's Vince McMahon. But I feel like nobody did the job correctly enough that it was like, we got this in the back. Like, you just know it's one of those type situations like, oh, it's over. It's over for him. It was like, at no point while I was talking about this, I was like, oh, yeah. Even though we knew nothing really happened to Vince after this, like, they obviously changed the policy and everything, but nothing really significant happened to Vince that like damaged his business to the extreme, because he's like a, billion-dollar corporation worldwide. Like, so clearly none of this hurt him that bad. But I'm just saying, I feel like, come on, guys. The fact that Hulk Hogan got there and they was really going hard, and then it was like, oh, we just kind of shared stories sometimes, but he never gave it to. I'm like, all it did was make it like you and Vince were best friends or buddies, and sometimes you guys just had illegal stuff and you guys shared it with each other, and that was it. And they were on trial for that. So it was like, prosecution,
you failed.
What are we doing here? Why was the point of all of this extra if y'all wasn't going to do your job correctly?
Right. Sloppy work. they were hot in the ass. They wanted to get a big fish, and they failed. They didn't do the proper, step by steps to make sure that they had it. They just were thirsty to get it. They should have took more time, if anything, to really get more evidence and really build a stronger case, build stronger, people to put on the stand. But they just wanted, they were so thirsty for that, I feel like it was just, that time. I feel like lawyers were trying to get their like moments. I feel like there were a lot of cases in that time period where it was just, they were trying to get those hot shotted, trials to get their name out there.
Like and Robert then to top it off, when I guess the not guilty came in, was like when they was talking about the other steroid drug called Anavar. And it was like, oh, the FDA has this out even though it's damaging the users, but it's still in circulation. And I'm like, that's always the, like, when medicines are known to do like some bad stuff and you guys didn't remove it, are y'all, this made it like, are y'all really that concerned about steroid use? Because this is clearly being used still, and doctors are prescribing it, and people are getting hurt, and people are, it is causing significant damage to whoever used it. And yet it was like, once that happened, the jury was like, okay, there, he's not guilty. And I'm like, I'm just feeling like in a situation of like doing your homework and making sure you can have every possible information that's needed to help you win a case, they didn't do that. Because I was like, how did you not know, prosecution, that this drug, this other steroid, was out hurting people, but let's go after Mr. Man, even though steroids is bad, but then there's this one steroid. So it was like the case was already kind of like, y'all was going to win this, but then that happened. It was like, okay, not guilty. How do you feel about hearing Mr. Man taking the neck brace off at the end? Like, they said he jokingly took it off, but I'm like, did he really jokingly take it off?
This is just another of Vince being a hilarious character. It just seems like something he would do, to be honest. Like, well, like, I really just can imagine it. Like, I'm sorry, he's funny as hell. Like, I can say, like, Vince is funny. Like, Vince is funny. That's all I can say.
I mean, like I said, I don't know if he really had a neck injury. I honestly don't know. But I was just like, you guys completely failed. Like, I was hoping we would have gotten some other inside information that I would have been like, okay, this wasn't. I don't know. I feel like sometimes in a documentary, you want to know information that's truly not easy to find. Like, information that it's like, oh, I didn't know this. Like, right. I feel like a lot of the information in this episode was information that could have been Googled. And that's the only thing I feel like I kind of about this season. I guess a lot of the things weren't like, there were some things that I was like surprised by, like, oh, okay, I didn't know this. But in the situation with the Missing Man, because this was supposed to be the that last hurrah for the season, and this, to me, I felt like season 3 like had the episodes that were good, but a lot of them unfortunately seemed like it lacked to me. It didn't have the same oomph that season 1 and 2 had, to me at least, I guess, in my opinion. I didn't see it had the same amount of level of, oh man, I can't wait to watch this episode, like I felt in season 1 and season 2. I guess that was my thing. I just feel like if you're gonna put a documentary and this is gonna be the last episode of the season, to a season that was at best,
right?
What did you say in the documentary that wasn't Googleable? Like, it should be that, like, oh, this is some new information, because all it felt like was you guys just kind of regurgitated, yeah, like information that was already out there. So I don't know. Like, it was good. It was a good episode. And it was certainly better than quite a few of the other episodes. But like I said, there were other episodes that I'm like, damn, like the plane ride episode, with Mr. Flair doing shenanigans and rightfully so getting called as he should.
Makes sense.
As he should. There were certain episodes I'm like, God damn, the Brian Pillman episode.
It was sad. That was very sad.
That was a there was those episodes, but it was also just like rightfully so. Correct. Rightfully, because but then there was other episodes I'm like I get this is Dark Side of the Ring, but also I don't like make me care enough by the end of the episode. I'm like, okay, thank you for showing me. Like, there was a lot. I was just like, I guess I don't really care, but I mean, okay, whatever. Right. And I feel like, so for this to be the last episode, I guess for it not to have like any really new information. It was just like, well, it kind of sucked because I feel like you kind of let down. Like it was a big deal. Like we're gonna break the season into two parts, have a little reprieve, come back, and the next half of the season is gonna be great. Only for I'm like, oh, okay, well, it was a good episode, but what did I know that I didn't know before this? Like, and I guess that's always my thing with the documentary is like you're supposed to tell me something or give like an interview with somebody who never said anything before or who was very quiet about what was happening. I feel like those are what makes documentaries different. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like another thing is I feel like because Chris Jericho is doing a lot of narration, I feel like a lot of times we're looking at it as if it's like, oh, look at all the bad stuff Vince McMahon did, and ignoring that there's quite a few people in wrestling in general that have done some bad things, and you need to look at it in that retrospect of let's be completely unbiased for everybody and not like, oh, well, like with the Chris Benoit episode, it's like, oh, but he was, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he was, but we're not gonna diminish what he did. It was a lot of that, and it's like that, like it was a difference of how he was like trying to. I guess a tweet I saw right before we got on here was somebody was saying that he tends to kind of go with what tragedies are, and I'm like to kind of get some kind of savior, and I'm like, you know what? I had to think about that, and I'm like, you know what? You guys are right here with that regards to attaching yourself to situations or in some kind of to make yourself look like you're helping. So like when he was like, oh, I got, Chris Benoit's older son back in touch with Nancy's sister, and I'm like, maybe you did, but I'm also sure that you didn't have to even put that in documentary. You could have just done it. Like,
Right.
let's get them in touch. I'm sure they both would have said, I'm glad to be in touch with my nephew. I'm glad to be in touch with my aunt. Considering the situation, considering to the fact that Nancy's not even like acknowledged. It's like everything she did before Chris Benoit is kind of erased to an extent. It's like as if she didn't exist before she married Chris, which is unfortunate for her because she doesn't deserve to be erased from wrestling as a whole for
Right.
something that was done to her. She wasn't wrong in the situation. She lost her life tragically, and yet it's like it's almost as if she's completely erased. So I feel like in that situation, like even though her sister did speak on it and her stepson spoke on it, it should have been a situation where I did this, I did do this, but let's not put it out there to make me seem like I'm this great person because I got them back. So I feel like a lot, especially with this season, it seemed like if he can bring up something about Vince McMahon, he did it. And again, this is not me condoning anything because I also know Vince had done some really shitty things to people, and he does. I feel like eventually, if he has not paid for it, he will. I am a firm believer in the universe dealing with people who do shitty things. The universe will come around it once. It will eventually. And sometimes it'll be like, I'm going to give you for everything you've ever done. It comes back around. So I feel like if Vince have not suffered for it, he will for the bad things that he's done. But I feel like it's also like, as a documentary, at least try to be as like unbiased. So when you're telling a story, it doesn't seem like it's a vendetta type of thing. Like I'm generally just telling the story. Me knowing how I am about things, I don't think I could be that. If I'm like, if I feel the way, I'm like, I don't know if I could be unbiased. Like I can I can speak, but don't have me run the documentary because if I feel a way about the situation, I cannot speak it's going to be hard for me to speak without there being some bias. So I don't know. I'm hoping if we get into season 4, I don't know. I mean, we could be. I don't know. But I'm hoping we just get some more stories and maybe somebody else that's not Chris Jericho fucking narrating because I'm tired of hearing him narrate every episode.
He just sounds so obnoxious every time.
I feel like like even with the other one with that guy, the guy who didn't clean the dishes, right? Like I didn't even understand the point of that part of the story. I was like, okay, so all you told me was he was dirty. Like all you told me was he don't know how to clean properly. That's the vibe I got from that. You didn't tell me any information that really needed to be said for the documentary.
Dark Side of the Ring. He didn't wash his dishes.
Like literally, I was like, what was the purpose of you being here, Chris Jericho? If all this part of the input you gave us was, oh, I remember one time I was with him and he didn't wash the dish properly. I'm like, I mean, that's nasty because it is.
It is.
But is this necessary for what we're talking about with the documentary? Absolutely not. Like this man was a little bit crazy. And he did some crazy things, but what did him not washing the dish properly have to do with the documentary? And so I feel like, can we make sure when we get people speaking for documentaries for season 4 that they're talking with some sense?
Right.
They're not sitting here like contradicting their own selves during the documentary because we had a couple of those. We were like, wait, that's not what you said about 20 minutes ago, but I guess So let's not have contradiction. Let's not have contradiction. People doing interviews, and if you're gonna do something that's a story that either we do know or one we don't know, make sure it's stuff that I feel that's relevant. Yeah, that Bruce Birdie one made I was crying. I'm not, when I first actually saw that during quarantine, I was like, let me just watch all of season one. I was a whole hot. I was upset. I cried because I just felt like it was just such a sad end.
Yeah.
And also, I felt like it did get pushed to the back burner because he was so, his persona was like he's a crazy wild man. And so, because of that, it seemed like, oh, he deserved to die. And I don't think he did. Like you being shady or not happy that he's making money, whatever the case, whatever underhand stuff was happening, there are ways to do it that didn't involve somebody dying about it. So yes, that story did make me cry. I was crying about that. I guess him holding his son's picture probably was the icing for me. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm a mom, so I got extra emotional about that part. Like, oh, he's holding his kid's picture. That's a terrible way to that's a terrible way to die. But yeah, just for season 4, Dark Side of the Ring, can we get another narrator that is not Chris Jericho?
Yes.
And yes, you can, if this man did some more shitty things we are unaware of, that is fine to talk about it if it's a nasty part of wrestling. But also, make sure we get all those other. Let's talk about some of them other. If y'all want a Dark Side of the Ring, let's get some speaking out people up in there. Like, ooh, look at them being shitty and shady and disgusting and
Right.
predators. Put their asses in fucking dark. Tell their stories, because I know he was friends with quite a few people that was outed on speaking out. So let's get some of your friends on here and let's discuss the darkness for them and be honest about it. And let's be like, oh, but he's my friend, and we talked about it, so it's good. No. Let's get some of those people up in there where it's an honest documentary, like where we're kind of calling out some of your homies, Chris Jericho, about
God, that episode.
listen, like it was a whole, like I said, it was a lot of his buddies was called out. Quite a few people that people was like, oh, this is a great wrestler. We found out they were very creepy and predatory.
Right.
And I feel like that is also a very unfortunate part of wrestling for not only the wrestlers who were being assaulted, in places they're supposed to feel safe, but even sometimes the fans or significant others that were in situations because they thought they can get away with it. So yes, definitely let's get some of that up in there, season 4. And if we're gonna tell stories we know, give me some information I cannot find on Google, like that I only for the first time hear it after the episode. I'm
Right.
like, oh, this is new information. Otherwise, it's like we're doing a documentary where you're just repeating what people already know. So what was the point? Like you got us hyped up for it to be like, oh, okay, well I knew this already.
I just feel bad because I feel like they started off so hot. I feel like that Brian Pillman episode was so good. Well, the two, but it kind of fell flat. Like I can only name maybe 3 other stories that stuck with me really from this season. Everything else was kind of like background noise and just unnecessary. Especially the Nick Gage one. I'm sorry, I will say it every time. Yeah, I just can't. I'm sorry.
See, listen, I know when I said it, people got mad. I'm like, you guys can like him, whatever. Has nothing to do with what I'm saying. My point is, I didn't feel like we needed an episode about it. Like that was all I was saying. Like we didn't need an episode about whatever he was doing. I mean, I guess you guys did it because he was like he's the deathmatch guy and he's pretty popular indie guy, whatever the case may be. Well, I know he's in AEW stuff now too, but I just was like, did we really need this episode? I don't think we needed it. I didn't like the episode either. The Luna Vachon, I was okay with that episode because it was very sad. And the plane ride, like that plane ride episode was like you look at people like this is one of those situations where you guys know bad things are happening, you don't step in, and it's again with whole speaking out Me Too stuff. A lot of people know that this stuff is happening. You guys don't help people. You guys don't speak up for it. So that's some stuff that should be talked about.
And Tommy Dreamer obliterating his whole legacy to protect a bunch of.
Listen, if we can get an episode off that alone about how you just every day you just fall further down the ladder of common sense because you keep doing shenanigans. It's like every other day. I'm like, you know what? Let's not hit Chris Jericho this week and then go, oh, you did something else stupid. Oh, okay, well, like, and this is to be clear, I used to be a really big fucking fan of Chris Jericho. I really was. I was like, when he first kind of came to WWF and he was with the pigtails, I liked him. I did. But as an adult, the more I hear, I'm like, yo, just shut up, my guy. Shut up. I don't want to hear you. I don't care. And you can't, Like, I'm a firm believer, if I am truly wrong and I am doing something that is completely unacceptable, correct me.
Right.
Don't have me online looking a complete fool, and I'm
Mhm.
sitting here like blah blah blah, and I'm looking like a complete idiot, and none of my homies like Katrina. No, absolutely incorrect, Katrina. I would hope a true friend of mine will
Yep.
correct me. Chris Jericho clearly don't have good friends. His friends should tell him, Christopher, whatever. No, let's tone this down a bit. Nobody's telling him, so he keeps going here sounding more ridiculous every other day to some other nonsense. But then he has the audacity to be when I'm talking about somebody in a documentary. I was like, I can't take you serious narrating this when I know how you are on Twitter. Like, I see your tweets, I see your Instagram posts, Mr.
Mhm.
All Lives Matter. Like, you have the audacity to be on somebody's documentary. You want to be talking about how everybody else is bad. Really? We're gonna do that today? So that's my issue. So please find somebody, maybe get Mick Foley to do fucking.
Yeah, I'll take Nick
Let
over
Mick
it.
Foley do the narration, please. Like, pay the man whatever you need to pay him. Let him do the narration, so I can at least not be like, why are
Shut
you talking?
up.
Because it makes me harder to listen.
I just like, oh my god, shut up. Like, get irritated. I'm like, why are you talking? Seriously.
That. So that's all. And so what Grayson said about dreaming, the fact that he like it blew over and they put him right back is my point. Wrestling have a lot of bad dark stuff. We know this. So let's get to those stories and get to it where it's unbiased, or we're gonna go after people. We go after all of them, not just Vince McMahon because he's Vince McMahon. Because if y'all expect me to believe, like, I'm honestly, and this is again not to listen, Vince McMahon is also friends with Trump, and I fuck Trump as well.
Right.
If y'all didn't know where I stand on that, I don't like him either. So,
No.
I
I support no Gemini men.
I feel like, again, and this is not condoning Vince, because we know Vince does some shitty things, and I feel like he should be punished for it. If he doesn't legally get punished for anything, the universe will handle it. I'm a firm believer. It might be like right when he gets to like the end of life, and then like poor Shawn Michaels, poor Shawn Michaels, who like clearly lost all his looks. And this is not to put his character only on looks. And I'm sure he's grown as a person because everybody has said he's a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not gonna ignore Shawn Michaels. Like, young Shawn Michaels was a bit of an asshole. And I feel like him being an asshole, the universe was like, all right, Shawn, all the ladies loved you. They're not gonna love you no more. And let's take all his looks. I feel like the universe got him back for that. I feel like a lot of shit Shawn Michaels was doing shenanigans in the background. The universe was like, "Whoo, let's pull this way. Let's pull this way." And now it's like, okay, all you can do is be nice because your looks are gone. It's like,
got humbled.
yeah, humble, really. Like, listen, he paid for it now. I was like, listen, the universe is real ironic. Like, he was known for being he was the sexy boy, heartbreaker. He was all these things. The universe was like, not anymore. So I'm sure the universe will get Mr. Man for his shitty behavior, for the underhanded shit he done. And it probably be when we like right when it gets to that point where he's like completely alone, the universe gonna be like, whoop, there you go, Mr. Man. I feel like he'll get his. I feel like everybody, but let's get all those people then. We better get all everybody's dark side and not just like, okay, I did drugs. So okay, well, that sucks. And I hope you get help and you get better, but also there's a lot more darker stuff we can touch here. Let's get to those things and not to the person like, oh, I was doing some drugs and I'm still kind of doing some drugs, but let's get an episode to that. Like, I mean, I guess we don't really need
right.
that.
I'm sure there's still many people who are still, I'm sure of it. Like,
so like I feel like there's so many things we can kind of touch on. So I'm hoping season 4 does that, and it's a consistent. Because I mean, I was okay with the FMW, but I was like, because I like Hayabusa, so that was my main part of the episode. It was just like, oh my god, Hayabusa, and then he got paralyzed, and I was sad. Like, I felt sad when I found out. I was like, when did he die? I was very recent to him, so that was my thing. I was very sad about that.
I also like the episode where they went to, I think, was it Japan or was it North Korea? I forgot where it was.
Yeah, the Korean the trip.
I like that.
Even that one part of that was pretty good. For me, it was just the fact that wasn't with the shits, and like he just was not with the shits, and I'm like, you know what? I respect anybody who's just not with the shits. Like, he was just like, he was that fuck around and find out kind of person, and I'm all for those kind of people. It's like, y'all keep testing the wrong ones, and they're gonna let y'all know we're not the one, and I respect that. So
just thinking about how off the deep end he must have been when a murderer's like, whoa, you're doing too much, man. Whoa. Like, how off the deep end do you have to be when someone who's a murderer just like, Man, you bugging.
Exactly. That's so. Yes, that part made me laugh too because I'm like, he wound up going. He then committed, 2 murders after this. But I mean,
Right.
like,
I mean, chill out, man. Think about it.
like hold your horses. So yeah, just I'm hoping season we get season 4 where all the episodes are like, damn, I can't, even if I don't know who the person is, like make it where I'm like, oh okay, because outside of like, okay, this guy is just like committing a bunch of crime, and I'm like, all right, I mean, I guess, but does this warrant an episode? Does this warrant a full episode? Maybe we can do an episode with random people we really don't know like that.
Right.
Like these people did some dark stuff. Let's put them in one episode. Like to dedicate a whole episode. I was just like, I don't know if we need all this. Like, again, not to downplay anybody who actually like these wrestlers. It's just like I was very confused by some of the episode choices they had this season. So let's hope season 4 is better. We start off really good. And again, can we get Mick Foley to narrate? Anybody that's not Chris Jericho. Because every time I hear Chris Jericho now, I just feel a level of irritation and rage. And I'm tired of seeing him. I had to unfollow him so I don't see his stuff. And occasionally he'll slip back in, and then I have to mute the tweet so I don't have to see that anymore. I don't want to see him on a show I actually enjoy watching. It's like, can we
get Morgan Freeman? Damn.
Morgan Freeman. Oh my god, because I can picture that. Oh, fucking Samuel L. Jackson. Pay him, okay?
This motherfucker.
About wrestling.
He's gonna go like magic.
You get both of them. Get Morgan Freeman for the really serious part, and it's something that's like you kind of have to question, like, what the f? You get Samuel L. Jackson to kind of put an MF up in there just at the right moment. I'm telling you, documentary is gonna be like 20 times better just at that moment right there. Just keep like, listen here, mother effer, and we're gonna be like, oh, okay, Sam, you're right. And
we need Samuel for the Ron Simmons Dark Side of the Ring. Go, damn, everything.
Like if y'all can get anybody that's not Chris Jericho to narrate, I'll be very happy. Like,
literally.
Please get Mick Foley let Mick Foley do some narration. I have heard nothing bad about Mick Foley as of yet. I heard nothing bad about him being shady and being hurtful to people. No. Get his ass up in there, let him narrate, and then I won't be sitting here feeling irritated because Mick Foley truly seemed like he was completely just unbiased about stuff. Like, it was like, this is what looks like this is a very wrong situation, and it was none of that like, let's play favoritisms because I don't like this person or I'm working for a different company. And so that's my thing. So
definitely.
Yeah, but I guess I feel like we just rambled for like
we did. But it's the last episode, so we just have to.
We just totally rambled the last 15 minutes, but
I'm scrolling. Okay, I'm sad.
Yeah, I know. We gotta figure out another show we can like cover. I don't even know.
I'm gonna look.
Unless it's non-wrestling related. Because I don't think there's any wrestling shows. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think too. I don't think there is. I mean, we could. But is someone already doing Heels? Because I have not watched that yet, but I would love to hear that.
I haven't watched it yet either, actually. So I wouldn't mind. I mean, I don't like the guy because I don't like Arrow. So there's nothing.
He's so cute, though. He's so cute.
I didn't like his character as Arrow. He just irritates my soul in general. So now when I see him, I'm just like,
shut up.
Yeah, that's what it is. So he's not like he did anything to me personally. So it's not like a personal thing. It's just his character in Arrow. Every time we talk, I just want to punch him right in the throat. So now everything he does after that, I feel like I want to punch him in the throat right after that. And so it's just a personal weird thing I have with certain actors. Is like after a while, I'm like, kind of how I feel about like Donnie Wahlberg. Like he didn't really do nothing to me personally, but every time I see him, I'm just like, can somebody just slap him real quick? Even though he did absolutely nothing to me, I just feel like.
That kind of reminds me of what Mike Knox said the other day. He said it's method watching, where if you watch someone in a specific show and they piss you off, you can't really take them in anything else. That was something I
mean, that's how I feel about Danny Glover, honestly. Like, he was so shitty in Color Purple that when he, like, was going to die in Saw, I was like, good. I was looking at Jigsaw. Do you, Jigsaw. Do you. Do it quickly.
This is for CD!
This is what he did. This is what he deserves. So yes, I am definitely one of those people that if an actor plays a role so well that I get so irritated with them that I'm like, I want you to feel pain in every role you ever do after this. I want you to be in pain. I want you to have a bad life. I want all this for every role you're in after. So yeah, I definitely feel that way. But and Christian Bale only saved himself because he did Batman. Because when he was in Shaft and he was a racist, I hated every movie he was in. And I was like, oh, okay, Batman, not too bad. And I was like, okay, you kind of redeemed yourself as Batman. Because every movie after that, I was like, I hope you just choke on like a grape and then you choke and die. Right? And so, yeah. So we could watch Heels, and we actually could, I guess, start watching it and just go every episode if you want. We definitely can, because I do want to watch it.
Because
But
I agree with you because I have not watched it yet. I don't like to
I
watch
haven't either.
it comes out. I don't know.
I haven't either, but I heard good things. I just don't like the. I just don't. I just. It was all because you blame Arrow. Blame Arrow for this. Every time, even when he was like getting like arguing with Barry Allen and Flash, I'm like, yo, shut the f up, man. Shut up. I don't hear you talk. So when he died, it's like, you know what? This is what you get. This is what you get. Sorry if anybody didn't know that. Spoiler, my bad. If you didn't know about his character, I feel like by now there's mad seasons. If you don't know,
yeah,
come on. But off of his character, no, he just really irritated me, and I like how he talked to Barry Allen, and I'm just like, you know what? If you die, I'm fine with this. Like, so I'm just going in this show, just gonna be angry, just mad face at him. But I can watch
it. Talking about imagine just starts.
So I mean, we definitely can do that, and it'll be kind of wrestling related. Just won't be like. See,
So am I.
funny? I literally just started watching The Flash because of my oldest daughter. She has me watching all these Arrowverses, and I get irritated. I feel like Barry Allen needs better people in his corner, but it's a whole rant for another day. Barry Allen deserves better. Mm-hmm. I stand by this. He deserves a better wife. He deserves a better squad. His squad sucks. And Arrow. He deserves all the badness for every for every role. If he like gets beat up in heels, some of these kicks ass in the ring, I'm like, you know what? This is what you get for Arrow. I don't forgive. So this is all this is. So
again.
So just saying that if we watch an episode, I'm like, yes, it's because I just feel a way about what he did in Arrow. That's all. That's all it is. I have to stop. I know this sounds really crazy. I know how crazy it sounds. I really do this with actors all the time. I'm like, if you play a role so well and I'm irritated by you, I'm irritated by everything you do afterwards. I'm just gonna I want every character of yours to suffer. So we definitely could do heels. And everybody's buddy. CM Punk is in it, I believe. So everybody's buddy. So I guess
everybody's buddy. I'm crying.
You know how people are about their CM Punk. Everybody's like, oh my god, don't talk about him. So we definitely can do that. Yeah, we definitely can set that up because that would be cool. And that way we don't have to wait for season 4 to do something else. Yeah. And it's still wrestling.
Is he coming back? Is there like a date when they know that?
I have no idea, honestly. I have no idea.
They don't never know nothing. Like they don't never communicate. I had to find out it was coming back for the second part through like a random tweet.
I think that's how I found out too. It was through Twitter, and I'm like, oh. Oh, thank you for stopping in. This is like a random Thursday. Like, let's just do it today.
Yes,
this is like the one day I was like, okay, we can do it, and worry about like internet issues or anything else. But yeah, don't mind me. I go my rambles and my rants all the time, and sorry.
You're great.
But yes, we would definitely try to work out when maybe in a week or so, in like 2 weeks, we can start doing the episodes. And I guess we can do every episode. I guess like every episode at a time. And that should be cool.
Yay! I'm excited.
All right, guys. So tell everybody what you have coming up and going on for Unpopular Review.
Well, my week is pretty much over, but it restarts on Tuesday when I review NXT 2.0 with Bad Guy Jack, great guy. And then Wednesday, I have the challenge. I can't do without I need my little, reality TV. I need my little fun. So those are my things. And you can also catch me on my Twitch. Shay Sawyer says, yelling, screaming, playing video games, mostly Dead by Daylight or Fortnite. That is what I'm doing. What are you doing? What you got going? I know you got a lot coming up. Come on.
Oh man, yeah. I just had an interview with so if you haven't checked it out, check that out with Rain Cruz. She did the SummerSlam entrance for Big E's match on SummerSlam. She was very, very sweet, very kind. That was a cool interview. So check that out if you haven't. I just reviewed season 3 of You on Netflix, which I definitely did rant because love Quinn. Ooh. I teamed up with another YouTuber, Haven, our girl Haven. She collabed with me, so I talked about that. I will be reviewing Squid Games. I kind of slacked with my review on that because I don't want to mess with people's names. I don't like butchering people's names. Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure I get the names correct before I do the video. And then I do also plan to review Dune because Jason Momoa is in there. and he's Bay, and so I have to watch everything he's in. Even if
I
I'm
didn't
sad,
even
I
know
watch.
that.
Yeah, Jason Momoa is in there, and that is Bay, and I just feel like he's everything, and so I watch everything he's in.
He's
Even when
beautiful.
he disappoints me, I watch it anyway. So I plan on reviewing that. I do have a couple of interviews also scheduled. And if you're in Jersey, I will be doing backstage interviews for We Are Wrestling's second show in Jersey, so that should be cool. Yeah, I know I haven't watched. Like, I was supposed to watch it, but with someone in person watched it without me, so angry face. But I plan to watch it this weekend so I can get my review out, because again, I was holding off watching Bay Jason Momoa. I'm his second wife. He doesn't know about it, but I am.
Right.
I planned on watching it, but then I was waiting to watch it, and the person watched it anyway. So I'm like, dude, why? Like, I could have watched him on Friday. So yeah, catch that, and sometimes you'll see me on Women's Wrestling Talk. I did an interview with Bianca Corelli, who is Santino Marino's daughter, and I did Medusa, and hopefully we're trying to figure it out with I would be on Medusa's Twitch doing Dead by Daylight, because she happens to like horror video games, and that is my jam. I love horror video games more than anything else. And so we're trying to set up a schedule because she's really busy. I mean, she is Medusa, so it's just trying to make sure we can both be
Makes
on at the
sense.
same
Yep.
time. But so yeah, that's pretty much it. And I write for a few sites, so just catch that on my Twitter and Instagram, which is in Cat We Trust and Ease3. But thank you guys so much for well, thank you, Grayson. I feel like he's the consistent person that popped in.
Well, great, Grayson.
Thank you so much for being super awesome, hanging out with us on a Thursday afternoon at work. At that, super awesome. And catch us, I guess, in like 2 weeks or so to Heels. That should be pretty cool.
I'm excited.
Later, guys.